Welcome back to another session on my Caribbean and Latin American news now. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you will like and share. Very important that you like the videos and you share the videos so that it can be shared on the platform. Remember now that we don't have long left before we go into a full-blown fascistic state. So we have to share truth and information as much as we can. Okay? Now, the title of my program for this afternoon is President Trump warns Maduro's days are numbered. So President Donald Trump is suggesting that he doesn't plan to strike Venezuela, yet he's saying that President Maduro's days are numbered. What does the president mean by that? President Donald Trump has just sent a powerful message to Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro declaring that his days are numbered. While President Trump says he doubles, or he doubts rather, a U.S. strike on Venezuela, he made it clear that Maduro's regime is on borrowed time. Now, isn't that ironic that you're not going to strike, but his regime, that's Nicolas Maduro's regime, is on borrowed time? This warning is sending shockwaves across Latin America and the Caribbean, especially as Washington's stance toward Venezuela grows tougher. Could this signal a major shift in U.S. foreign policy in the region? And what does it mean for Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica, and neighboring Caribbean nations are as tensions rise, but more so for Trinidad and Guyana, who are closer to Venezuela? Stay tuned for the full breakdown on Latin American and Caribbean news now. Now, the BBC reported this morning that Trump has played down the possibility of a U.S. war with Venezuela, but suggested Nicolas Maduro's days as the country's president are numbered. Asked if the U.S. was going to war against Venezuela, the U.S. president told CBS 60 Minutes, "I doubt it. I don't think so. But they've been treating us very badly." Now, what does he mean that Venezuela has been treating him very badly? In fact, and I've reported on this before, that Venezuela did write Donald Trump a letter in which he, solicited a meeting with the president to discuss concerns that the president holds of the Venezuelan regime. Trump ignored that letter. So I'm not sure what he means by Venezuela is treating him bad. I think it's the opposite, right? Isn't that to the contrary, where Trump is treating President Maduro very badly, saying that he's a part of a gang called Cartel de los Soles, the Cartel of the Suns, which my understanding does not even exist. Okay. But the fact of the matter is that I would think that it is the opposite. It's to the contrary, that Trump is treating Venezuela and the Venezuelan president badly by suggesting that he should demit office and he's not the legitimate president. Now, one of the things we have to understand, there are people who are making that accusations too. If you don't have receipts and in which you can prove that Nicolas Maduro did not win the elections, shut up and not say that he is the legitimate president. Why? Because in almost all democracies at the given moment, I'm sure including in your country, a lot of times citizens question the legitimacy of elections. An election was recently held in the United States, well, last year, okay, in which Donald Trump won. People questioned it. When Donald Trump lost in 2020, okay, he questioned the legitimacy of Biden's administration. So the fact of the matter is that if the United States citizens, in fact, we saw what happened in January 6, 2021, okay? So the fact of the matter is that if these things are happening in the United States, and yet the United States is going to other people's countries and suggesting that their president is not legitimate, something is wrong with that posturing, because that's what it is, posturing, because the United States is no paragon of virtue as far as clean elections, free and fair elections are concerned. So why would you want to now tell a country, and I've seen people even from the Caribbean suggesting that Nicolas Maduro lost. I can't say he won or he lost. What we do know is that he eventually emerged as the winner. The same thing with Trump or Biden. We can't say, we can't prove of a fact if these people have won or they've lost. What we know is that they have emerged as the leader or former leader. Okay, so that's what we have to understand, because if we're going to question and, then it's not going to end. We're going to go down a rabbit hole. So the most we can do is for the next election, we ensure that people go there and that they, sort of organize a clean and fair election as much as they can. But the fact of the matter is that I don't know if, because human beings are by nature dishonest and we lie, by nature we lie because we love power and we're selfish by nature. And selfishness encourages lying and stealing. When you're selfish, when you just think about yourself. And leaders often like power. And that is why Lord Action says absolute power, controls absolutely. Is that the statement? I think something of the sort. Sometimes when I'm on camera, I forget my expressions. Okay? Now, and if the US was going to war against Venezuela, the US president told CBS, I doubt it, I don't think so. So he's saying that he doesn't think he's going to go to war with Maduro. Okay? But Trump rejected suggestions that the US action was not about stopping narcotics, but aimed at ousting Maduro, a longtime Trump opponent, saying it was about many things. Right? So Trump is not saying that it's not just about regime change, it's about many things, or drugs. It's about many things he's suggesting. Okay? Now, we also have another boat that was attacked yesterday, in which the Secretary of War or the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, is boasting at also that he was able to unalive people in that speedboat, the 15th speedboat, my understanding, that has received kinetic lethal strike. That's what they're calling it. That's what they brand it as. And they seem to love that, what they're doing, right? Pushed on whether the US was planning any strikes on land, Trump refused to rule it out, saying, I wouldn't be inclined to say that I would do that. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do with Venezuela, if I was going to do it or not, if I was going to do it. He says that he's not going to tell the process of 60 Minutes what he would have done. He's not going to do it. Now, you really wonder, what sort of democratic institutions or societies are we living in? Do we even have democracy at this point in time? If the president cannot declare on 60 Minutes what he's going to do or not going to do, he will not divulge to the country, according to him. And some people are going to say, well, in the interest of national security, and that is how we get fascism, when the presidents, the governments think that they are king and they do not have to disclose what they're doing. And we are going down a very slippery path. We're treading on a slippery path if we do not get hold of what is happening. In fact, the 15th speedboat that was attacked and blown up, okay, or struck, whatever you want to use, whatever word you desire to use, okay, it is becoming normal. We're now desensitized to these things happening in our Caribbean shores and Latin America, I should say. It has become normalized. And is that normal? Now, what happens when Trump also normalizes striking on land? So any building, if he deems like a narco-terrorist is in a building, a government office, a school, he can strike because they're called enemy combatants, which means the president can strike without due process. Strike and ask questions after. This is what we are normalizing. And if it is that he has the power to strike boats on the high seas, then eventually he is going to be able to strike on the land. Are we really understanding what is happening, or are we just comfortable? Let us say, for example, that Trump starts to strike Venezuela on land, right? Nicolás Maduro escapes Venezuela. Somehow he gets to fly out of Venezuela. Let us say that it is alleged that he's in Trinidad, or he's in Colombia, or he's in whatever territory that he finds himself in. The US can go there and strike if they think they have intelligence that he's at a particular location. Well, maybe they won't, because the fact of the matter is that if he leaves, they probably will be happy. Yeah, I don't think they will necessarily strike. But you get the gist, that if it's somebody that they want to strike. But I think if he should leave, logically, they would not want to unalive him, because he would have left. He would have, acceded to their request of leaving. That's exactly what they want him to do. And normally, too, when they want regime change, they don't want the president or prime minister to remain in the country. Sometimes, especially a man like Nicolás Maduro, and the fact that the army is so, tethered to him, and they love him, and they are fanatics, that they would want him to leave the country, so that, in the event that he might, launch a coup or do something to unseat whatever government the United States wants to impose upon the country. Okay, so that is what we have to understand. Very, very important that we understand these issues, and we do not take these things lightly. Okay, very important. Now, Trump said the government was not going to allow people from all over the world to come in. He's suggesting that Venezuelans are particularly, problematic in the United States. They come in from the Congo. They come in from all over the world, as if he didn't come in. His parents did not go into the United States. What is the United States for? It's an immigrant nation, right? So his parents went in also, and he's no saint. Trump is no saint. They're coming not just from South America, but Venezuela in particular has been bad. And what evidence does he have? They have gangs, he said, singling out Tren de Aragua. He called it the most vicious gang anywhere in the world. And I wonder if the United States doesn't have gangs and its citizens, and if the United States cannot be described as one of the most violent countries in the world. Even before Tren de Aragua came to our consciousness, America has always been a violent nation. And that is why it produces a lot of violent movies that you love to watch, right? Because it's violence that it imagines, okay? Now, President Trump was also asked about nuclear testing after he called on U.S. military leaders to resume testing nuclear weapons in order to keep pace with other countries such as Russia and China. So he's saying that he's going to launch nuclear tests. Where are they going to be launched? We don't know. And we're living in some very dangerous times in which, as we're suggesting that Trump can just strike speedboats in the Caribbean in international waters without any repercussions, okay? Without any legal ramifications and consequences. This is something that is unprecedented in our democratic history. And we are silent on the matter. We think that we're living normal lives. We are listening to, what do you call these things? Prank. You're amazing, You sit and you give all these pranksters on YouTube billions of dollars and time, running around on YouTube, just sitting there. And that is what YouTube loves. Because if they can get you to titivate your minds where you can't think, all you can think is what is happening in Chris and Kwan's life and Kristen and Reef, right? That's all you're concerned about. Okay? Not understanding that these matters, these videos that I'm sending to you ought to be very important that you distribute, and you should be liking them so that they can be sent across the platform, so we can have intelligent discourses around these very crucial and important topics. But no, we prefer entertainment to our own detriment. And right now, Trump is suggesting that even though he is not planning a war, according to him, or he will not strike Venezuela, okay, Now, I want to have a video maybe tomorrow to let you know how much this war in the Caribbean, the warships that are being deployed, how much it costs the United States daily to have those ships with the Marines and the military personnel there. I want you to understand what is happening. In spite of the fact that many Americans are suffering, literally suffering. Some of them are going to suffer from hunger. They're going to die of starvation in the richest country in the world that now glorifies war, right? That is what it's doing. Because as Trump is suggesting, this is not about drug or the war on drugs to depose Nicolás Maduro. According to him, it's about many things. That is coming from the president's mouth. I will attach the BBC report in the description, and you will see that I am not just speaking to speak. Read the president's words. He says that the agenda includes many things. Okay? So we need to look beyond just his deposition or toppling of the Nicolás Maduro's presidency and begin to understand that this war is going to expand throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, and we are going to see the militarization of the entire region, because as Revelation says, that the second beast of Revelation is going to cause the entire world to wander after the beast. Not part of the world, the entire world is going to wander. And not because they are necessarily impressed with the beast, but because they're forced to do what the beast says. They're forced to do what the beast says that they should do. And the United States understands that through diplomacy, it can't force people to do what it wants them to do. So if you don't want diplomacy, diplomacy doesn't work anymore. It's going to be through military aggression and force. There is absolutely no other way, and that is what the empire is suggesting. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Are you really in the reality? Are you really understanding what is happening in our backyard? Okay? Because it is serious. We're facing a serious crisis. And if we do not try to inform our children, our students, our families, our co-workers, we are going to be in trouble. And I think we're in trouble because many of us lack information. And the Bible says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Like the video so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. And be sure to leave a monetary donation if you can at my Cash App at the $MZTUCK9. That's $MZTUCK9. See you in another one. Ciao. Hasta entonces.